I found out because I was upset with him for being a little late to the next play. Then I realized that he was hurting, and I was told after the game. But he was fine. He was a little banged up on that play, but nothing after the game. It wore off, and he's good to go now.
You said emphasized 30 runs. That was, for the team that gets 30 runs. Was that? I'm sure it was mostly specific to the opponent, but is that something in your mind also generally about games?
Yeah, always. I mean, it's everyone. Usually, teams that lose didn't run the ball that much, and usually when you win, you run the ball more. But it's a lot more complicated than that. It's hard to get runs like that called, but when you're going against a real good defense, like we knew Minnesota was or is, and we know we're a good defense also. So when you go against two good defenses, the team that's able to run the ball, usually you put your team in the least amount of risky situations. And you knew that would be the plan for both teams. It's kind of been the plan all year for both teams. But very rarely are you going to see two teams run over 30 times. So that's why usually the team who plays the best team football is able to do that. And that's why that's not just up to the offense. I mean, the defense has to cause some 3 and outs, which they did. Special teams has to play very well. And the offense has to do good throwing the ball also on third down so you can keep calling those runs. And I think we got all 3 of those things, and that's why we were able to get a lot more than 30.
The only 2 negative runs you had were the kneels, and the longest run you had was 11 yards. Have you ever had a game where it just seemed like you were just kind of 4, 5, 6 at a time like that?
No. I mean, you do, but then you got to not when you score points. Usually, if you don't have an explosive run, it's hard to score a lot of points. So if you would have told me that before the game, I wouldn't have thought we got so many runs in. I would have thought we had to throw to get some points. I thought that was the neat thing about just how the whole team played. That was a tough thing about Minnesota's defense. They hadn't been giving up many explosives in the run or pass game. They were a little susceptible to giving up some 4-yard runs and 5-yard runs, which nobody wants. But the way those safeties came down and everything, it was extremely hard to get an explosive run. And that's why they did a heck of a job all game, not allowing us to get one. We had our chance on just a few, but they were such good tacklers. They got us down there. But that's why third down was so important. We did decent on third down, and our defense did really well on third down, so we kept getting opportunities.
How do you view that November game against the Packers, given that, or how do you use it this week? I guess from a preparation standpoint, there are going to be schematic things you look at, but I would assume you're also expecting a very different type of Packers team that you're going to play on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean we know it'll be different. I mean we know that game got away from them early, and I mean that's definitely not the team we're going to see this week. I mean everyone knows how good Green Bay is, how good their coaching staff is, how good their players are, how good their quarterback is. I don't think they've lost a game since then. So I mean I think that game really holds zero relevance in what's going to happen this Sunday.
You go through that game and look at where things could have gone wrong with little mistakes. I mean, are there any teaching points in that one?
I mean, I'll probably find some. I haven't gone through it hard yet. I'm still doing the Minnesota stuff, and we're going to meet with our players right after this and keep talking about Minnesota for a couple more hours, and then we'll get them out of here, and we'll spend the next day and a half all on Green Bay, and when they come in on Wednesday, I'll address Green Bay with them.
It seems like it just seems natural that after you have your way with a team like that and then you face them just a couple months later, you kind of take it for granted. What's going to be your teaching point to the guys this week?
Don't be that stupid. That's not real. This is about Sunday's game. I mean, I can give 1,000 stories of things like that. Plenty of games from my history that I've been a part of. So I remember losing to Carolina 37-0 when they were 13-0, and we had to play them 2 weeks later, and then we beat them at Atlanta, and they ended up being 15-1 that year. But I mean, there's so many stories like that, and this is the NFL, so no team. The game before never matters like that. There's 4 teams left, and there's 4 very, very good teams, and it's going to be a hard game for all of us. So, and also our players, the type of guys they are, the way they've been all year, I'm not concerned about that. They'll have to answer that question, I'm sure, a lot, but I don't think that'll be a worry for our players, which means it won't be for me.
Kyle, even though you haven't started dissecting Green Bay yet, off the top of your head, what jumps out as things they might be doing differently now versus last time you played?
Nothing really, because I haven't dissected them yet. I watched it on TV last night like everyone else, and I'm going to hop into this after I'm done with our players. But, I mean, they do what they do, and we do what we do. So, I mean, we all run our schemes and have our foundations of what we do. You can't reinvent the wheel in a certain week, or you're putting your players in a bad position. So everyone's going to have wrinkles. We're going to have some wrinkles. They're going to have some wrinkles. Lots of teams play each other twice in the year. If it would have been the other team, it would have been the third time we've played a team. So this happens a lot. It's going to be a tough game for both teams, and I'm excited to go get started on it.
Devontae Adams is the main guy you got to stop in that offense, and everyone knows that, but he's still tough to stop. What makes him such a challenge?
That he's very good at beating man coverage. When guys that are hard to cover because of their quickness, their feet, their size, and their hands, it's tough. And zone, they got a good quarterback who gets the ball in the right spot. And, Devontae's definitely their best guy beating man-to-man, but they got a bunch of guys who can do it too.
How has K'Wan played in that role this year? We've talked about how he's had a pretty good year, but how do you see him matching up there?
I think K'Wan does. I think K'Wan can match up with anyone in this league. I think he's done a great job all year. I thought last week, I thought he took his game even to another level. I thought he had a great game on Saturday, and I expect him to do the same this week.
Kyle, 3 years ago, you were also preparing for the Packers in the NFC Championship game. That went very well. I assume you want to skip the stomach flu this time around. What are your memories of trying to prepare while you were sick that week?
It was different. I remember having to do that Friday night. I had to do an interview for a defense coordinator, which I didn't want to have to do because usually my Fridays are resting. But I had to interview a defense coordinator for this job. And then later that night, I started getting sick and just spent the whole night getting the flu, and it was rough. But fortunately, I was just a coach, not a player. So once that game started, I sat in my chair all game, very relaxed, dressed warm, and just called plays. So it was more of a story, just because I was pretty sick, but that doesn't affect play callers very much. We're not the ones that got to go out there and run all game.
Being defense coordinator, when did you hear that Saleh wasn't going to get the Browns job, and what was your reaction to that?
I was pumped. I heard it on my way in to work, so I was extremely excited. I definitely have some empathy for Saleh. I know anyone who goes through that process and stuff, we're all competitive and you want to win and you want to get that opportunity and stuff. But, for Saleh, we're going to be, every year we keep him, we'll be very fortunate. Saleh's going to be a head coach in this league. Could have been one this year. Most likely he'll be one next year. But he's going to have the right opportunity come around for him. It's just a matter of time. And I'm just very happy that we're going to be able to have him going into next year.
Which were you, allow yourself to think about if you had to replace him, how hard would have that been?
It would have been very hard. There's definitely guys in our staff who I got a lot of confidence in and stuff, but that's stuff that I don't totally, it's always in the back of your head, but got a lot of other stuff on my mind right now that are definitely in front of that. So that was something that I kind of just put in a box and tied it up and put it away. Thought we would deal with that when the season ended. And now I'm glad I don't have to deal with it. So maybe we'll talk next year about that.
Describe the fan noise. How did D Ford emerge from the game, hamstring-wise?
He did good. It should be the same deal for him this week. No setbacks. So hopefully he'll take a step forward. But regardless, he played at a high level for us and was very impactful when he was in there.
Describe the fan noise this year compared to last and what difference that makes.
This year? It's a pretty big difference. The fan noise is as big of a difference as probably our team is also. So, they've gotten a lot louder as we've gotten better. I thought they've been loud and great all year. I didn't think it could get much louder, but it definitely was on Saturday. It was unbelievable when we went out there for pregame, just to hear how loud it was in pregame, which is unusual anywhere you go. I think we've been loud all year. At the line of scrimmage, they were loud when Kirk was in the huddle trying to call his plays. I can tell whenever they're touching their ears whether they're affecting guys in the huddle or not, and he was doing it all game. And it was just unbelievable. Usually driving in, you see a lot of jerseys on the other team, and you always see them in the stadium. I thought it was unbelievable. Our guys didn't sell any tickets to Minnesota people either because all I saw in the stands was red, and it was very noticeable and it gave us a special feeling.
After the game, some of the Vikings people expressed that they thought that Nick Bosa's block on O'Neal was a cheap shot. After watching that, what did you see on that play?
I think people say cheap shot when someone gets hit violently, and to me the word cheap shot means you're intense to try to hurt someone, and I don't think he's thinking about that at all. That's a normal block in football for a long time. The guy wasn't completely out of the play. He was a guy who could have made the tackle, and Bosa went and hit him, and that's a rule that you can't do that now. You can't hit a guy in that position. We call it a hit by. You basically got to set a screen, which means let him hit you. And just take it. And that's part of this game, and that's what you got to do, and that's what we'll coach them up on to do because you will get a penalty for that. But to say it's a cheap shot to me means you're trying to hurt someone and stuff, and I couldn't feel. I know that wasn't the case.
Will Emmanuel Mosley start on Sunday?
Yeah, I got a pretty good idea, but I'm going to let him tell those guys first before you guys. So I'm sure you guys have a good idea by Wednesday.
What was your evaluation of Jimmy's interception? Was that a bad decision or a bad throw? Combination of both?
Just bad decision. It was zone coverage. We had no one to affect 54. Their hook player was just a little too deep, and Jimmy thought he could get it over him. The guy made a good play, and something's got to just check down or go a different direction.
40 years old, Matt LaFleur, 40 years old. What about the success in young coaches? Your thoughts about that?
I don't think everything is, you got to look at individually. Matt's a real good coach, and he's on a good team with a good quarterback, and I think they've stayed fairly healthy, and that's what you expect to happen. And I don't think much has to do with age. I think it has to do with people and opportunities. And there's a lot of older coaches who are real good in this league. There's a lot of younger coaches, and now that I'm 40, I consider myself a decent older coach. But these young guys are doing all right too.
What's the difference in Tevin's performance on being productive?
Tevin's ran hard for us all year. I know he had much better results yesterday or Saturday. I think a lot of it had to do with the opportunities he got. He got more opportunities. And he also, he was running real hard. Usually it's hard to average, even where he did 4 yards of carry when we don't get an explosive. It just shows how physical each run was. The most impressive thing I thought about that game was when every time we did get 1 yard, or block him for 1 yard, it was about 3.5 yards. And he hit it hard, kept going all day. All the 10 guys out there were extremely physical, and none of our guys are built like the biggest backs, but Tevin definitely ran like a big back, and I think their defense felt that.
How did Ben Garland?
Quan did.
I thought Quan did a real good job. I knew he was going to be fired up to get out there, because I'm always nervous for guys when they're that excited to get out there and they haven't played a while. You knew he was going to run around and hit, but he also did a good job not making mistakes, kept his poise on the field. You can feel his speed out there. I thought he made a number of plays on the screens and stuff, and even when he didn't, just making backs come to a complete stop and having to change their course, where then the pursuit of the rest of our defense can get them, where it ends up being a 3-yard gain where I feel like it would have been 8, and that all adds up to third down.
Is there a way you want to continue to use him, or is there a ramping up process for him?
And we'll look at it each week, and we'll see how this week in practice goes. Quan's a guy we like out there. Right now there's 1 game left, and if we win this, then we have 1 more. So, there's 2 possible games, and the more time, the better it allows him to heal. But we'll see how he is this week.
How much of an impact can you quantify the impact beyond just the tackles and what you're talking about in X's and O's? I know he's a really positive guy, and he talks about the positive energy, that he doesn't even use the word good. How do you kind of view that? Do you see that permeating in the locker room and on the field?
Yeah, I do. I think I see exactly what you guys see. It's extremely real with Quan. He's like that every second, and our guys gravitate to him. I think just the same way probably fans feel about him. That's how we feel about him. Quan is ride or die in everything he does for this football team, and he will go out there. He plays that way when he's healthy. He plays that way when he's hurt. He talks that way. He lives football, and that's why his football character is one of the highest I've been around. And so just his character as a man, to me, I feel that way too.
Couple more. Kittle's blocking, obviously. His dad was an offensive lineman at Iowa. He did plenty of blocking in college. Did he, when he was a rookie, did he come to you as relatively polished as far as his technique in that area, or has he made significant improvements as a blocker as well?
He was a good blocker coming out of Iowa, and especially the way they run the ball and the style of runs they do. So it was nice to give him a head start on it. So he was good when he got here, but I think he's also gotten a lot better. Every an hour before practice every day, you can always hear the sleds outside, because John Embry takes those tight ends out every single day, and they hit sleds every day, to where eventually I'm like, hey, dude, you don't need to do it anymore. But he does. That's what he believes in, and I've seen the results. Those guys only get better. They don't get worse in anything. They play through injuries. They're extremely reliable and very talented. Kittle, everyone knows what he's done in the past game, but he has never once in 3 years came up to me during a game and said, hey, I need this route, or hey, we got to do this. He's never once came up to me about a pass play. But he comes up to me about every 7 plays about what type of run play we need to do, who we need to allow him to hit, things like that. And it makes it very fun to call plays for him.
Do you have a sense of the regional uplifting that a football victory such as Saturday can do for the Bay Area?
Yeah, I do, just because that stuff does it for me too. Not just as a coach, but as a fan. I love sports. When I watched the Warriors do good here for the 2 years I was here prior to this year, that uplifts me. I love sports, and I love what sports does for people. And so I think anytime you have a team that has a chance to be in the situation we're in, where the Warriors have been a lot. Sports are great and gives everyone a break from stuff, and you always want to support your home team, and I'm glad that we're giving them something to be proud of this year.
Back to Kittle's blocking, could you describe how valuable it is to your running game specifically, where a tight end can move a defensive end, somebody as good as Everson Griffin like Kittle did on Saturday?
Yeah, if you can't, if your tight end can't block the outside defensive ends, it's extremely hard to run outside zone. And Kittle can do that whether they're head up on him, which we call a 6 technique, or if they can do it if they're head up outside on him, which we call a 9 technique. And then that's very rare. He does it well, and the guys behind him do it pretty good too. And it's very hard to get guys who can do it, who also can help you in the pass game.
Going back a ways, when you said that you were pumped that Salah didn't get the job, did you express that sentiment to him? And how did he respond to your glee that he didn't get the job?
He knows me well enough to know how I am, but I'm definitely excited he didn't get it, and that's not just for selfish reasons. It's because I care a lot about this organization too, and so it definitely helps me, but it helps this whole organization, and I think it'll help Saul in the long run. Like I said, he's going to be a head coach. He just needs the right opportunity, and he's going to keep getting better and better too.
Help him in the long run?
So he can be in California for another year. It's really helps him save money. The insurance.
That he would have taken more of your assistance with him to Cleveland if he had gotten that job?
There's always a concern. Always, I know we got a lot of good coaches on our staff, and we've been very fortunate enough to keep them around here. But yeah, that would have been a concern. That would have been a tough part on our relationship. I would have never talked to him again if he did that.
Have you gotten your requests for other guys on your staff?
No, haven't yet.
Robbie Gould has had kind of a strange year. He had the contract thing in the offseason, then he got hurt. How do you think he handled those challenges, and when did he start looking like himself again?
I'm not going to answer the offseason part. I'm just joking. Robbie and we were all good once we got back here. Robbie's been great. Robbie's going to fight for everything he can. Robbie can sometimes be a tough guy to deal with, which is why I always joke that's why he's one of the best at what he does. So I don't ever want that to leave with him. He fought hard this offseason, just like he fights on the field. Once he got here, it's all good. I know he started out a little bit slow, which some were on him, some was on other things. And then he had that rough injury. But to battle back, get back here the way he's kicked since he's been back, it's been pretty much how he's been since he's been here. And it's been what we expect, too.
Tevin, before Saturday, in the last 5-6 regular season games, just like about 5 carries a game. I realize you ran 47 times, so it had something to do with it. But was that game plan specific, him getting 20-plus carries, or was it in the flow of the game?
No, we gave Breida the first carry. We thought Raheem and Tevin would get the bulk of them, with Raheem probably getting more like it had been the last few weeks. Then Raheem's calf cramped up a little bit, so he missed a series. And Tevin did real good on that series, really good. So we kept him in for another series, and he did real well. And then by the time the third one came, there was no point to put Raheem back in with his calf cramping. Tevin ended up banging up his elbow a little bit, so we put Breida in. But no, it just worked out that way, and that's what's really neat about our backs. All of them have, at different times, have been the best player in the field throughout this year. Raheem, his calf's cramping probably because he went in and made an unbelievable play as a gunner on special teams, got that turnover. So that's just part of it. And guys are helping out every way they can. And I even say that, I should have said after the game, I didn't know about it, but even like Akello, for Akello to get replaced by Emmanuel early in that game, he handled it great, but he went right up to Hightower right after that, which Tower told me yesterday. Went up to him and was like, hey, Coach told me they're going with E-Man, but hey, I'm good. Make sure you give me all E-Man's reps, everything he has on special teams. I want to do whatever I can to help. He needs his energy. You put me in on special teams. And it's just that type of attitude where you haven't had to call many people in to say that. Like, our guys are just, our guys have a lot of love for each other all across the board. And you got everyone out there doing whatever they can to try to get this one in Sunday and hopefully one after that. All right, thanks, guys.